A beloved rapper is gunned down at a California restaurant. The man accused of helping his son get away with the murder goes on trial in connection to the rapper's death. Nearly 2 years ago, rapper Rakim Allen, better known by his stage name PnB Rock, was enjoying a meal with his fiance at a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in South Los Angeles. That is until a robber approached their table and demanded items from the rapper and his fiance. According to LAPD at the time, words were exchanged, but that would end when the robber opened fire inside the restaurant. Those bullets would strike the rapper multiple times. He later died at a hospital. After the horrific shooting, the robber took items off PnB Rock's body, which reportedly included a custom chain and other jewelry, and fled in a car that was waiting for him in the parking lot. The rap community was in complete shock and mourned PnB Rock's shocking death. His record label called the death a senseless loss in a post to social media. Atlantic Records said PnB Rock was a great friend and a wonderful father to two beautiful little girls. The high-profile murder would leave questions, including who did this shocking and brazen crime. Within days, police were hopeful that the musician's very distinctive diamond-encrusted chain might help crack the case, as pawn shops in the LA area were told to be on the lookout for the stolen items. But then a huge break in the case. Within 2 weeks of the murder, authorities announced the arrests of two: a teenage boy who was accused of being the robber and pulling the trigger, as well as his 32-year-old stepmother, Tremont Jones, who was arrested on suspicion of accessory to murder. At the time, authorities were searching for a third suspect, a man named Freddie Trone, the husband of Tremont Jones and the accused teen killer's father. On September 29th of 2022, an FBI-led fugitive task force found Trone reportedly hiding in Las Vegas and took the then 40-year-old into custody. He was charged with 1 count of murder, 2 counts of second-degree robbery, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit robbery, the same charges as his son. According to authorities, it was Freddie Trone who drove the getaway car that was waiting in the parking lot after his son allegedly committed the horrific murder. But then another development in the case. 2 more suspects are charged with robbery and helping one of the suspects flee the state. I want to thank Upside for sponsoring today's Law&Crime YouTube takeover. Upside is a free app that gets you cash back on gas and groceries. So why not save at the pump and use Upside to get cash back when you fill up your tank? And yes, this is actually real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside account you can transfer straight into your bank account. Just claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You can pay as usual using a debit or credit card and follow the steps on the app to get paid. You can use Upside at hundreds of gas stations and fast food restaurants across the nation. To find out how much you can earn, click on the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code LCTakeover to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Tremont Jones was charged with 2 counts of robbery, conspiracy to rob the rapper, and illegally possessing a firearm as a felon. Wanisha Evans was charged in the case as well, with being an accessory after the fact. Authorities arrested the duo in May of 2023 in connection to PnB Rock's murder. Prosecutors say Jones took part in the plot to rob the rapper and says Jones met Freddie Trone at a parking lot near the Roscoe's and spoke with him for several minutes before handing Trone an object covered in a towel. Prosecutors say that object was a firearm. The state says Trone drove off and returned to the area to drop off his son, who was wearing a ski mask and was armed with a gun. Jones reportedly stuck around, however left when the alleged teen killer made his way into the restaurant. As for Wanisha Evans, she was accused of helping Trone flee the state after the shooting. She reportedly knew him since they were kids and saw him as a father figure to her own son. The state claims after Evans learned Trone was a suspect in the shooting, she reached out to him and allegedly rented a car and drove him from Los Angeles to Nevada for supposed safety. But Trone was eventually apprehended by law enforcement. After the arrest, in a more than 120-page transcript obtained by Rolling Stone, prosecutors revealed more details as to how police tracked down the suspects. Authorities claim Freddie Trone attempted to destroy the getaway car when he lit his wife's Buick Enclave on fire and fled the scene. Officials say video footage showed Trone leaving the apartment building he shared with his wife Chantel, dressed in all black with gloves on his hand, in the early morning hours of 2:28 a.m. the day after the murder. Less than 20 minutes later, a caller reported the vehicle was on fire 2 blocks from Trone's building, and a melted gas canister was found at the scene. According to LAPD officer Matthew Clark, he interviewed Chantel Trone 2 weeks after PnB Rock's murder. She admitted her husband had injuries consistent with someone involved in arson. as she saw her husband had burns to his forearm and legs. As for her stepson and the alleged killer, Chantel Trone claimed on the day of the murder she saw her stepson using a toothbrush to clean a piece of jewelry in the kitchen. That piece of jewelry was PnB Rock's diamond-encrusted pendant. Chantel Trone would tell police her husband's actions made her suspicious and denied she was an accessory to PnB Rock's murder. When authorities knocked on Trone's door on September 13, 2022 to report Chantel's vehicle was set on fire, her husband allegedly told her to conceal the fact he was home. She also reported that her husband and his son had been whispering throughout the day, and she was suspicious of that. When investigators searched Chantel's phone, they found a text message Freddie sent the day after the murder saying he had to leave because it has to cool down. But another heartbreaking detail was also revealed. Investigators spoke to PnB Rock's Fiance, who told police she was holding her boyfriend who was fighting for his life on the floor of Roscoe's when the mass shooter turned his gun toward her and demanded she show her hands. He reportedly threatened to kill her as well and demanded she give him all of her jewelry. She told authorities PnB Rock threw her under the table as bullets flew in efforts to protect her in the final moments of his life. In late July of 2024, the murder trial would begin. However, only 2 went to trial in connection to the rapper's murder. Wynesha Evans reportedly was given a plea deal after she was charged with being an accessory after the fact. Chantel Trone pleaded no contest to being an accessory after the fact. She's set to be sentenced in January of 2025. Her stepson, the alleged killer, remains behind bars in a juvenile detention center while he undergoes treatment to determine if he can be found mentally competent to stand trial, leaving his father, Freddie Trone, and Tremont Jones to stand trial. The trial took place almost 2 years after the murder, and in a risky move, the defense put Trone on the stand. According to the Associated Press, the defendant had a heated cross-examination as he denies he sent his son into the Roscoe's to rob and kill PnB Rock. While on the stand, it's reported Trone told the prosecutor, "I understand you're trying to get together your story. I never had nothing to do with it. I wasn't there. I didn't tell nobody to do nothing. I didn't hand nobody no gun." He reportedly even grew frustrated with the line of questioning from Deputy District Attorney Timothy Richardson. As Trone said, "How is this relevant to trying to tie me to something?" And at one point shouted for the 5th time after answering a question about encountering his son after the shooting. Trone reportedly acknowledged while on the stand the crime was heinous and that his son was dangerous. Although the state says Trone did not pull the trigger, during closing arguments, Deputy DA Timothy Richardson reminded the jury that a non-shooter can be guilty of felony murder when they are a major participant who acted with reckless indifference to human life. Richardson said a robbery is inherently dangerous. It's up close and personal. The prosecutors then walked the jury through the events of September 12, 2022, replaying surveillance video from the day of the murder. The video reportedly showed Trone in the parking lot of Roscoe's about 30 minutes before the killing. But Trone testified that he had reason to be there because he was drumming up business for his nearby beauty shop. The state also showed surveillance images of Trone's co-defendant and friend Tremont Jones fist-bumping PnB Rock. The prosecution explained as far as motive, there was $500,000 worth of motive. The state said Jones tipped off Trone to the rapper's whereabouts and his jewelry. Deputy DA Richardson also showed video from minutes after Trone was tipped off, which showed him in the Buick Enclave dropping off his son near the restaurant and picking him up a few minutes later. But the defense painted a different picture. Trone's lawyer said he left the Roscoe's, went to his beauty supply shop 2 minutes away, turned his back to use the bathroom, and the Buick Enclave was stolen by his son, who then returned to Roscoe's with 3 others. The defense argued the video of the alleged teen killer getting in and out of the back of the car rather than the passenger seat was evidence there was other people inside the car. As for the covered-up item that Tremont Jones handed Trone during their meetup, the defense argued it was a bag of marijuana and not a firearm. The defense then emphasized to the jury the alleged shooter acted independently of his dad, and there was no evidence that Trone controlled what his son did. As for Tremont Jones, his lawyer told the jury his client played no part in the father-son robbery plot, reminding the jury he was not charged with murder, only 2 counts of robbery and 1 count of conspiracy to commit robbery. After the rapper's murder, his fiance faced severe backlash and hateful online attacks for a post she made to social media about their meal at Roscoe's that day, as there was speculation she led the shooter to their location. But she testified during the trial she didn't specify which Roscoe's location she was at and only showed her food. The prosecution echoed her testimony in their closing, saying there was no image of jewelry and no image of PnB Rock. Deputy DA Richardson argued, for all the universe knew, Stephanie was with her girlfriend. Stephanie was with her mother. This post doesn't give you reasonable inference, but the defense wants you to believe the entire universe knew PnB Rock was at Manchester and Maine, where the Roscoe's was located. After less than 3 hours of deliberations, the jury found Freddie Lee Trone guilty of felony murder, conspiracy to commit murder, as well as second-degree robbery. The jury also found his co-defendant Tremont Jones guilty of second-degree robbery and conspiracy to commit robbery, marking a partial end to a shocking murder that rocked the rap community. And the sentencing for Freddie Lee Trone and Tremont Jones is scheduled for August 27th. As for Trone's son, who is the accused triggerman, he's scheduled for a mental competency hearing a day after his father's sentencing on August 28th. Chantel Trone, who pleaded no contest to being an accessory after the fact, is scheduled to be sentenced on January 16th of 2025. Meanwhile, Wynesha Evans was sentenced to 2 years of probation. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.